Act 3, Scene 2 is an important scene because in it we get another glimpse behind the scenes of the Macbeth's marriage. And all the things that we noted in Act 2, Scene 2, in the immediate aftermath of Duncan's murder, about how differently Macbeth and Lady Macbeth were dealing with the guilt, the weight of the guilt that they were carrying for the deed that they had done. We see them working their way through in their marriage and in their behaviours and in their relationship with one another in Act 3, Scene 2. So as the scene begins, we have Macbeth and Lady Macbeth talking, and she really, as we noted in Act 2, Scene 2, is persisting with this kind of state of denial. So she says these lines down here that I'm indicating: things without all remedy should be without regard. What's done is done. Basically, we can't change the past, so we shouldn't think about it. What's done is done. Which is, again, it's not really engaging with the gravity of what they've done. It's living in a state of denial. But there is a sense when you see this performed, these lines, that she's who's she trying to convince? Who is she trying to convince? Macbeth, or there's a suspicion that she's really trying to convince herself that actually, don't think about it, don't think about it, don't think about it. And that's really what these lines are about. So it's important that we see, though, that the state of denial that Lady Macbeth is living in is persisting in this scene. Macbeth, on the other hand, he has just sanctioned the killing of Banquo, so his mind is in a completely different place. He's thinking all the time about his decision to kill Duncan and the further killing that he needs to do in order to maintain his position. And so he says these really terrifying lines in response. He says, "Better be with the dead, whom we to gain our peace have sent to peace, than on the torture of the mind to lie in restless ecstasy." And that restless ecstasy phrase really captures the state that Macbeth is in after he kills Duncan. That he's constantly unable to be at peace, and constantly thinking of the people who could be out to get him, or what he needs to do in order to make sure of his position on the throne. He says it's better to be with the people that we've killed, because in the end they're at peace, than to live in this way, full of fears, full of wonderings and doubts about what could happen to us if we don't kill the people who could potentially dislodge us from the throne. And as we noted in the previous scene, when we saw Macbeth manipulating a couple of murderers, a couple of, I guess you could say, undesirables into killing Banquo, without the help of Lady Macbeth this time, we have that kind of confirmed in this scene, that Lady Macbeth has no idea what her husband has planned for Banquo and Fleance. She's trying to almost live by forgetting that they have killed Duncan, and forgetting that that dreadful deed. She's wanting to put it in the past. Macbeth, on the other hand, has his mind is full of scorpions. He says here, "Oh, full of scorpions is my dear wife." She's trying to get him to forget about this and try to get him to move on from this. But Macbeth says, "Oh, full of scorpions is my mind." His mind is full of dreadful deeds that he needs to perform in order to make his position more clear. And a line here at the end of the scene, which I think is important, "Be innocent of the knowledge, dearest Chuck, till thou applaud the deed." This is said in response to Lady Macbeth asking, what are you going to do? What are you planning to do to Banquo and Fleance? And these lines are often played in a really patronising way, where Macbeth it becomes clear that Macbeth has really subordinated his wife. He's really kind of dismissive and and really patronizing towards her in these lines. She is no longer the influential figure that she was in Act One, Scene 7, where he needed her to kind of persuade him to kill the king. She is peripheral. She's on the edge of his decision-making process to the point where she doesn't even know that he has planned to kill Banquo, and that's a really important shift in their relationship that I want you to understand. Moving on to scene three. Scene three is the scene where Banquo, in fact, is actually killed. And just one thing to notice, actually, at the start of scene three is, although Macbeth has arranged for two murderers to go and kill Banquo and Fleance, when the two murderers arrive at the kind of appointed place in the woods to lie in wait for Banquo, they discover that a third murderer has been arranged by Macbeth. And this kind of plays into this idea that Macbeth can't trust anyone. He has to, put a kind of yet another layer of deception in at every turn, because he's not able to trust the people that he's entrusted to carry out this deed. So that's a little hint of that there by the presence of the third murderer. And just important to note in this scene that Banquo is successfully dispatched by the murderer, but Fleance escapes. And of course, so for Macbeth, as we'll see, he's only half secure, because the prophecy over Banquo was that Banquo himself wouldn't sit on the throne, but that his kind of his descendants would. And of course, with Fleance still alive, that still gives that possibility.